If your heart evolved first, well, why did it evolve if there was no blood or blood vessels to be able to pump anything?
All right. A heart likely wouldn't evolve without blood. Yeah, good point.
If your blood evolved first, why would it evolve if there's nothing to move it around the body?
We'll get back to that one, but okay.
If the blood vessels evolved at first, why would you build a highway system if you don't have any cars? See, it doesn't make sense unless they all came together at the same time.
That's where you phrase the question strangely. And if you phrase the question that way, and if you buy into this conceit that things weren't co-evolving at the same time, and or that what we have as blood vessels, and a heart were the first instances of such things, then this question may make sense. When I was a young Earth creationist, this whole argument would have made total sense to me because I didn't understand evolution. Now, I'm not sure if Eric doesn't understand evolution or if Eric is choosing to be ignorant of these things. But one thing that definitely Eric didn't do was, in good faith, go and do research as to what biologists think happened with the evolution of circulation systems. So you can at least go on to Google or to one of the AI bots or anything like that, and you can at least ask the question. You don't have to believe the answer that comes back. But hey, Eric is positing there cannot be an answer to this question. So I am not a biologist. Only a scant few years ago, I believed that evolution was terrible and evil and false. But here's my understanding, and I am not a biologist. So it seems like, and not just seems like, there are other creatures in the world that use a blood type plasma to circulate things like oxygen and nutrients and to remove toxins and things like that. This blood like substance is not necessarily in blood vessels, but it can move throughout the body through either existing openings or through porous walls, right? So osmosis and things like that. There did develop in some creatures plasma that moved throughout the body and was helpful. Now, if you have a plasma moving throughout the body that is helpful, and if it can be more helpful for that plasma to go to certain areas more regularly or more quickly than other areas, then it makes sense that at some point, that if creatures mutate to allow trackways for the plasma to travel, hey, you're starting to get rudimentary blood vessels. And you know what? There are creatures that have a blood vessel-like structures that can expand and contract. And that expansion and contraction helps to move the plasma along when perhaps gravity or other motion wasn't doing the job. So these expanding and contracting vessels, if that starts to specialize into an expanding and contraction heart chamber, and your body only needs one such of those when it gets strong enough to be providing circulation, boom, you've got blood vessels, and a heart in an evolutionary story that, whether or not you believe it, is at least an answer to this question. And this question is not a gotcha, because there is at least that plausible answer, and I probably did a terrible job at it. And people who are biologists in my audience are probably cringing and saying, "But Paul, it's way cooler and more advanced than that." That's fine. I am just the point here is, all it takes is very rudimentary thinking and simple understanding and thinking of these processes means that things like Eric puts forth are not a gotcha any longer. So you need to discuss the ideas on their merits and not on this weird notion of how you think evolution works, when that's really not how it works. And that's what I mainly wanted to say. But Eric had one final note.
And that is what we call thinking. Like a creationist.
That, my friends, is thinking like a creationist. And sadly, you did demonstrate exactly how a creationist tends to think, Eric. And it is not good thinking, it is not solid thinking, it is not informed thinking. And sadly, that is synonymous with creationist thinking. All right. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Was this a good argument from Eric? Did I do a reasonable job of explaining at least a plausible way in which this may have evolved, these systems? Let me know in the comments how I did.